and again, there's so much. Well, this person said this, but this person said that. I'm gonna just go off of your male and female, biological human male, and biological female with reproductive organs from birth. If I'm wrong, just tell me I'm wrong. Because when you say, now that you say man and woman, because they made it just so inclusive, then it's male and female now non-inclusive. It starts to becoming confusing. So I'ma just say a biological female with the reproductive organs that was biological at birth. Now, take with that as you may. I ain't got nothing to do with that after that. You can just call me whatever you want to.
Just wave your hands like I don't know what to
Yeah,
say.
I don't know what else. What am I supposed to? And I think that's and I believe that's the part that I agree with the documentary so much, is that if there was a clear cut understanding, like the example if you want to be called a woman, fine, but you're not a biological female, fine. If we can come to that understanding, it's like there's no common ground or understanding, because now it's so much of, well, no, I am this. But
trans women are women is the
and if you want me to call you a she, if that's what you want me to call you, fine. But are you a biological female with reproductive organs? No. And I'm gonna give you this example because I had this on Clubhouse. Someone told me on Clubhouse that if I was out here dating someone and a trans woman came to approach me, that she doesn't have the right to disclose her sexuality
she's not required to
give me that information, even though she does not know what type of female that I deal with. See, in that is an issue, because I'm like, what if I don't like non-biological parts or biological parts?
That makes you transphobic, apparently.
So my pushback on that was,
you're a bigot, Dre.
Well, I guess I am, because my pushback is that how is that fair if you non-disclose that information to me, and say for instance I was to do that, you get to a sexual sensation and you want to have sex, and then there you go, you have this. Shouldn't that information be disclosed? And it was like, no. I was like, that's not fair. So what does it mean to be a woman? What does it mean to be fair? That's the problem that I have. It has to be, for me to walk down the street, a duck has to be a duck. It has to be something that's logical in my brain for me to be able to process. That's why I agree with the majority of the documentary. You know what I mean? Because it just
talks like a duck.
It's just,
okay. Now I want to play devil's advocate, and now I'm playing devil's advocate. I actually don't genuinely, sincerely hold this view, but this to me is now entertaining. So, and I'm not really trolling per se. I actually genuinely want your answer.
You trolling because I got on my Celtics stuff. So let's go.
Let's do it. No, I'm actually not trolling, but it's going to come off like a troll because I am going to take delight in how awkward you answer. I anticipate you're going to be awkward with your answer. But I genuinely want to know your answer. So if you were to see a person who, as far as you're concerned, appears to be as womanly as the womanliest woman possible. Yeah. They've gotten all of the relevant surgeries. The surgeries are immaculate. Unless you're trained to, you really can't tell the difference in terms of functional equivalence of the relevant parts of the anatomy. Everything is, for all intents and purposes, the same with respect to the things that people do behind closed doors. And this person doesn't disclose the relevant history, and you are none the wiser, and you really, really like this person, and you vibe, and you're cool, and y'all got a relationship going on.
I'm in love. Just put it like that. I'm LL Cool J.
What's an interesting question is, like, what exactly at that point, other than the reproductive question, what exactly is the issue if you were to come to find out after the fact what they didn't disclose up front?
They're a liar.
What is?
If
they omitted it, is that lying?
Yes. for the simple fact is that when it comes, like, if I was
like if I was involved with somebody and I didn't tell them that I used to be in the army. I didn't deny that I was in the army. I just didn't tell them that, and then they found out later. Am I a liar?
Yes.
Why?
Because in relationships, you're supposed to tell information that is going to be important later on. So if I withhold a kid from someone, and I've been dating this person, they in love with me, and they didn't know I had a kid, and I pop up and here's a kid, they're gonna be like, "Why you just didn't tell me? Why couldn't you just be upfront and honest? Have me make a decision." And I believe that that's the problem. You're not giving me the right to make a decision, and I believe that we all should have a right to make a decision if you want to deal with me or not. If you're so proud in what you believe in, well, give me the fact, give me the decency, give me the respect to tell me so I can be able to make a decision. Hell, I might be down with it if you tell me and give me my own area to be able to make the decision. I wouldn't even be mad at you. But if
there's
you
a lot of
that,
things
but if
that
you
we
take,
don't. There's a lot of aspects of ourselves that we don't tell other people, even in intimate relationships. And I wouldn't say that
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 means
makes
we're
us liars.
liars. That
I
means
wouldn't
we.
say that that makes us liars.
But
We're
how
just too
big?
strong.
How well? Okay, so we're fibbing. So
No, I wouldn't even. It's not even necessarily
if,
deception. So,
but
like,
it, but it
if
is,
I just withhold info, like,
but that is
I don't think I've
deception.
ever told anyone I've ever dated, and I mean these are serious relationships, every single facet of myself.
But did
Now I
you
understand
make a
that there's certain things that
dramatic
matter more than
change?
others. Well, let me finish
Yeah.
the thought. There's certain things
Okay.
that matter more than others, right? So, but I'm saying, like, first of all, it's not always clear what those are, but I think that most people would regard whether or not you changed your sex, if I can put it that way, as a big deal. And so that would probably go into the bucket of that's the kind of stuff you should probably tell somebody you're going to be in a long-term relationship with, for sure. I'm not trying to deny that or be willfully dense about that. But, like, I don't know, man. Like, for example, body counts. Like, we don't always disclose that. That's pretty freaking intimate. That probably has something to do with whether you want to be with somebody long term. And a lot of
And
people don't disclose that
and
almost
that's
ever.
it. And that's exactly why people in the divorce rate it is what it is now, because people
Because
don't
people
want
don't
if
disclose
you
their body counts.
but because nobody wants to be honest. Just tell me. See, that's the thing that
What if
I'm
you lost
talking about.
count?
What, dog? You just say I lost count. Just be honest. But see, this is the
If a
thing. Is
woman
that
says that, though, to be fair,
but
if a woman
but
says that,
but
she's
if a
more
woman,
liable. She's more liable to lose out of the relationship than
well,
men.
hey, that's the part of the experience of life. You
No, but
can't
that's unfair,
wait.
though. That's
No,
not
it's not
fair for
unfair.
women. That's not fair for women,
It's not
dude.
unfair. And I'm
Our
gonna tell
culture
you
doesn't
why
treat
it's
these
not.
things the same. Our culture doesn't treat
What
them.
I'm telling you is that life is not fair. So if
No, but
you
no. Wait, hold on.
I give you an example. Before you go there, I give you an example. If and this literally happened, Maya Khalifa. We all
Mia,
know if Mia Khalifa, I said Mia Khalifa. We all know who that is. You know what I mean?
I
She
don't know
got
who that
married
is.
to
For my audience, who is that? Who's Mia Khalifa? No, I'm playing. I don't know who that is.
So everybody knew what she did on camp, what she does on camera for a living. Everybody knows. You know what I'm saying?
Is she an
Because
actress?
she
She an actress of some kind?
she's a very good actress. But
Is
what I'm
that Wiz
saying,
Khalifa's cousin? No.
yeah, it is.
All right, go ahead.
So she got married to a guy who obliviously did not take the time out to find out who this person was. Did not take the time out. He married her, found out what she did, and divorced her. And then she's on camera crying. Well, if you give people, because you can't live this life and be like, okay, now I gotta close out this because I'm afraid. I thought you was proud of who you were. I thought you walked with all this glee and all with your chest pumped out. Well, walk like that. Walk the way you talk it. And a lot of people don't want to do that because they're afraid. A lot of people like Donald Trump because he walked what he talked. The people didn't like him because he was literally if he said it, if it was coming out of his mouth, that's what it is. And I can respect
He did say a lot of
someone.
things that weren't
He
true.
said a lot. Yeah, he did. What I'm saying.
He's loose with the facts, as Obama.
But yeah,
put it.
I could. Let me shut up. Let me not go there because I can
You
say a lot of
sounding
stuff.
real MAGA-ish right now, bro.
No, I'm not. What I'm pointing out is that in this land we're more about deception. And I believe that if you lived a particular type of life, I respect people more Now, everybody's not going to respect you, and that should be because of what life you led. If I was in jail, in and out of jail my whole entire life, I'm not going to expect every job to give me a job. I'm not going to every time I go to a place and knowing I've been in and out of jail and I got this criminal history, I know maybe this particular job, is not going to accept me. That's okay. I have that expectation. And a lot of people have this high expectation that everybody's supposed to fall in their category, and they're not. But so they be they be Decepticons, and
well, I do
because
think,
I have my Transformers in front
but
of me. So
but there's some nuance here that I want to try to address, and we only got 15 minutes left before we cut it off. But I want to try to get into this nuance because I've been holding on to it for a while. So the nuance is basically this: there are a lot of social implications to disclosing certain aspects of ourselves that a lot of us are keenly aware of, and it's not obvious in any particular instance in advance whether or not people are going to assess or evaluate or judge us fairly based on facts about us from our past, particularly the things that are considered shameful socially.
mhm.
Body count for women is something that is an example of that. Whether or not you've had you've had a gender affirming surgery, if I can put it that way, is another one. Even if you talk about disclosing your criminal record, right? Like it's not obvious that the person that you're dating and you really like and really want to be with, whether or not they're going to assess that or evaluate that fairly, or whether they're going to write you off.
What is
And
it?
so
But
there's a
is it?
lot of
Is it?
pressure. There's a lot of pressure about the decision to disclose that is revolved around that, as
But if
opposed to
they
as opposed to trying to deceive anyone. A lot of people who are operating in good faith, what they're trying to do is not necessarily deceive anyone. What they're trying to do is ensure that they don't unfairly get a negative consequence by a person who's not willing to evaluate exactly what the past was, the extent to which those old ways are not the ways of the person now, etc. And if you really, really, the decision is high stakes in the context of intimate relationships, because if you really, really like a person, like if you have reason to suspect that that person is not going to be cool with whatever your hidden history is, or the facet of yourself that you haven't revealed yet is, that's a lot of pressure, bro. Like that's a lot of pressure. Whether it's the fact
it's
that you had
support,
a kid in a past life, the fact, all of that stuff.
but
Now
it's a part of
I
life,
understand.
though.
Wait, but I want to give credence to some of the stuff that you're saying that resonates with me, which is this: a lot of people deal with that high stakes situation by lying, by being deceitful, by acting as if the opposite is true. So they will act like they don't have a kid. They will act like they never did have a criminal history. They'll hide that stuff. They'll obfuscate that stuff, etc. And I think that there is an element of deception to that, insofar as they are acting as if, or leading the person to believe that the opposite is true. That's
So can we
deception.
can we so now can we equate that to a person who's acting and moving in a way of a woman that biologically or anatomically, did I say it
A-
right there now?
Anatomically, yeah.
Anatomically was not born that way? Wouldn't that, if you didn't disclose that information? So and I believe this is just a decision making point. So because you might like me, you might think the world of me, but I still have to be able to accept who you are, all of it. That's no difference than, like I said, if I went to jail
Hmm.
for sexual assault of a child,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
But I act like that never happened. I went and I got a woman, and she fell in love with me or whatever, and I never disclosed that information, and that woman has children.
Hmm.
Wouldn't that wouldn't and everybody and people who's gonna watch it be like, oh, that's extreme. No, it isn't, because I acted like nothing ever happened.
I think
Isn't
your
that
analogy. I think the analogy is somewhat fair because they have a lot of similarities. I do think that you're not wrong to point out that there are substantive reasons to feel some type of way about a person not disclosing um, that they've gotten gender affirming surgery, bottom surgery, as it's colloquially called, etc. Um, because that is a part of who they are, even by their own standards. Right, that is
yes,
how they identify, and that's a part of their life story. But the thing is, a
yes.
lot of a lot of a lot of people have embraced an ideology that insists that there is no fundamental difference whatsoever between a trans woman and a woman, that trans women are women, full stop. And so if you believe that, then it obviates the sense of duty to disclose this kind of thing. That's where they're coming from. However, I can understand a person who doesn't accept that, thinking, no, this is more like disclosing whether or not you have kids, or this is more like disclosing whether or not you have a criminal history. Like, that's something that's germane to whether or not we are going to continue. And if you deprive me of the ability to be able to make a decision with respect to that choice or take that into account, then you're doing something wrong, or something approximating deceptive. And that's not fair. And if it's a person that you want to, in the context of an intimate relationship, what's awkward about that is intimate relationships are like the poster child case for where you would want to be the most honest with a person.
And again, if someone who has gotten their, or let's say they're pre-op, right? Mm-hmm. And they wanted to date me. They disclose that information to me. Say, for instance, I choose to go with it. Then what's the problem? If I choose not to go with it, what's the problem? I think
so one issue is that, on the whole, statistically, trans people are not very likely to, they're not as likely to find partners that are going to accept that facet of them. And so their dating pool, that impacts their dating prospects uniquely in a way that doesn't impact other people's dating prospects.
You know
what? And so it makes it tougher for them, disproportionately tougher for them, I think.
I mean, a man with multiple kids, multiple baby mamas, had to go through the same situation. Is your
a similar situation, not quite the same.
If you, what I'm saying is,
I actually think statistically, people are way more likely to accept the fact that you have had kids in a prior relationship than the fact that you changed your sex, bro. Let's not equate those. Those ain't the
same. What I'm saying is that this is just to me. If I know what the game is, I have to play the game by its rules. So I know that this is my life. I know it's not going to be hard. I mean, it's not going to be easy. I can't make everybody win. I can't. And I think everybody wins. It's some bull crap. It's some bull crap. Everybody doesn't win. Sometimes you got to take those L's.
I'm trying to get you to understand. And
I see that, and the realistic side of me says, nah, man, everybody got to take an L. You know, if you take an L with me, you might not. Wait a minute.
But it's not. But the dynamics are not the same. So here's what I'm trying to point out. Like, I'm gonna make an analogy. It's gonna be a questionable one, but I'm gonna use sports. Okay.
Okay.
So in both football and basketball. Okay. So in the NFL.
Use the Celtics as an example?
NFL. No. In the NFL. The fullback position is all but like lost in the NFL, right?
So we're gone.
There's not much of a demand in the current NFL for fullbacks, right? Their desirability is ranked lower, and so fullback people who play that position, particularly at the high school and college level, are disproportionately less likely to get recruited at higher levels because of that, right? In basketball, the traditional center position, right, where you just stand under the basket with your back to the basket and dunk all day like Shaq used to do, right? That is all, but with the era of positionless basketball, we want centers that can stretch five, right? We want to stretch fives. So the traditional center, the Andre Drummonds, are dinosaurs. Their desirability pool is much lower because of those trends. So we have trends in society that pertain not to sports but to dating. So and the trans and non-binary people. Hold on.
Do you die or
I'm almost done. The trans and non-binary people, right, who disclose that relevant history, okay, once they make that the case, they face a certain kind of lack of desirability that is disproportionately negatively affecting them in the context of dating by comparison to the other people that you compare them to. The dudes that have kids, the dudes that are the people that have criminal records, things like that. I'm sure if we did some statistical analyses, we can maybe fine-tune our comparisons to see where they stack up. But what I think you're doing is I think you're assuming something that may not be true, which is that they're more or less equal. And I don't think that that's the case. My hypothesis would be that in the vast majority of places in the country, particularly a trans woman who is seeking to date a man, biological man, and discloses that, they're going to be discriminated against more so than the man that has children is discriminated against, in terms of women suiting them, and probably even the broke man, probably even
Like they
the
get
man with a
women all
criminal
the time.
record, the man with a criminal
Jesus.
record. Like I'm just saying, like it's more that's way more taboo than those things. At least that would be my hypothesis. Now, I would have to find data to back that up, to be fair, and I don't have that data right now on hand. So right now it's just conjecture with no real support. But I'm saying you got to be careful, because at least you should acknowledge that that's possible. And if that's true, then you can't just equate them and be like, no, it's all the same.
No, it is the same, because you're talking about dating. So do you die or adapt? When you're talking about dating, do you die or adapt? Because a man, say for instance, a man is not physically good looking, his dating pool is going to be shrunken a lot more. So he has to find his particular lane. A man with a lot of money can't go and try to get an Instagram model, because the two lanes don't equate. You know what I'm saying? So does he die or does he adapt? And what I'm saying is that either you die or adapt, and that goes for anybody, whether you're part of the LGBTQ plus community, or whether you're a part of the heterosexual community. If you know good and well that a lot of heterosexual men, might,
but if your dating pool is negatively impacted because, and this is the contention of people on the left, if your dating pool is negatively impacted because people fundamentally misunderstand how gender works and misunderstand your gender identity, and they have a bunch of prejudices, unchecked biases against you that are not fair, isn't that a problem?
Once you convince me what happened to the art of communication, and communicate with me why those prejudices should be broken down, instead of you just looking to date and non-disclose. Why don't you talk to me? And I think that's the problem, is that we don't have enough education as far as people coming out and say, this is me, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing. And I think
that's exactly what trans activism is aiming to do. Is exactly what you're saying. Educate people, raise awareness.
And what I'm saying is that when you start talking about dating, like I made the example about with the trans with the trans girl, I believe, we was on Clubhouse and we had that conversation. I said, well, it's just like with anything. If you talk, and I understand the fear of talking to someone and saying, this is the things that have been on in my life, like drugs or anything. Everybody has a fear. It has a bias. It has a thought that if I tell somebody I smoke crack and I'm trying to go date, they're gonna have so many prejudiced thoughts in their mind because of the way that it's presenting of someone who was on drugs and has dealt with the fact of drugs. And I'm not sure, so I put trans people in crack. It's the same thing. Don't say I'm saying that. What I'm saying is I'm equating biases. Is all I'm doing is equating biases. So I don't sound funny.
But I do think that what's awkward about that comparison, to be fair, is I think that people would have more of a substantive reason that's not rooted merely in ignorance or prejudice to discriminate, quote unquote, against a person who's addicted to crack or who smokes crack regularly, as opposed to discriminating against a trans person, because a trans person is not a crack smoker. There's substantive differences that make.
No,
well, there's substantive differences. I know you're not equating them, but all I'm trying to point out is that there's substantive differences between them that actually make discriminating against one more reasonable than discriminating against the other. And I think that the main contention that a lot of trans and non-binary and trans activist types have is that the discrimination is rooted in a kind of ignorance about how gender works, and their contention is that trans women are women anyway. Like that, like you're basically getting a hang up over biology.
So you're gonna force me to like you, no matter if you disclose any information to me or not. Just like
I don't think that a person who has that view would say that. I think that what they're saying is it shouldn't matter, because
I believe it. This is the reason why I believe it should, because all of us have a past. All of us has things that we need to talk about. And one thing, there's 4 types of intimacies. right? In relationship. And this is for heterosexual or gay, it doesn't matter. 4 types of intimacies, and this is on my TikTok too. If you go to the Dre Mac show on TikTok, I break down the 4 types of intimacies. And emotional intimacy is one of those. Is one of those things. Emotional intimacy is one of the things that we fairly rarely do that actually brings the tie of a relationship together and makes it stronger. The reason why emotional intimacy is so important because you start talking about the deep, and this is part of goodhealth.com or goodhealth.org. It's goodtherapist.org. I'm sorry. So what it does is when you talk about emotional intimacy, what it does, it breaks down the barriers of prejudice and biases and stuff, because now we're talking on an emotional level where I have a lot more empathy because we're now sharing things that deep down inside we would not be able to conduct or be able to talk about within a group of people. So if I'm dating, and that's what I'm saying, is that if I'm dating someone and they disclose, hey, I'm gonna be honest with you, this is my past, and they broke down in that emotional, we're sharing emotional intimacy. I am now more likely to empathize with them because now they're sharing that emotional intimacy with me. So now I could be able to have a general understanding and I could be able to go forward with the relationship if I choose to. The problem is that if you do not disclose that information, it's almost like you held me hostage to the fact where I could have been doing what I want to do, and you decided, no, I'm gonna keep this from me and just find out at a later time or never tell you what at all. And I don't think that that's fair.
What do you think are some key takeaways, maybe one or two key takeaways from the documentary that you're going to go with moving forward?
One of the key one of the key takeaways that I wanted to take away from that documentary is, for one, is the logical explanation of what is a woman. If if it is a logical explanation of what a woman is, and what I mean is a complete definition. That's it. Just a complete definition, not a roundabout definition, just a complete definition, then I'm cool with that. Just like when someone said a woman can include trans and this and the other, but if you said female, then I understand. That makes more sense to me than just say I'm a woman and you just have to call me that. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So that was one of the key things. I believe if you're going to be loud and proud, and I want you to be, I want the LGBT community to thrive like anybody else. I just want you to be just honest with the with you know with your with your ideology, and push that. And if you're going to push that ideology, just to me, it has to be a way where it's understandable and not forced. You can't be a Jehovah's Witness with it. And I believe a lot of this, just to me, from what Matt Walsh showed, was a lot of pushing to this and making it a social norm where it doesn't have concrete, so it's not, everybody can't get on board because there's no concrete surface. So you got to make that surface concrete. So if you want to get everybody on board, just make it concrete, and then I don't think you will have a problem. Me personally, hey, do what you do. You know what I'm saying? Just don't, I don't like the force thing. Just like nobody likes anything forced.
Nobody
So
likes to be forced.
no.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate the documentary? 10 being it's the best
Oh,
documentary you ever seen,
godly.
1 being the worst.
I would say it was an 8. I would give it an 8. For the simple fact it just opened my eyes to a lot of the information, especially when we start talking about. We didn't really get to this, but the source of the information where a lot of the talking points from the LGBT community came from. Some of a lot of the psychological professors. I think one, Jesus, I can't.
John Money was one.
Yeah, John Money and the other guy, but learning that information really really opened my eyes. It made me start to question a lot of things that, if you're pushing this ideology, like a lot of people have their ideology, and the one of the biggest ideologies in world history was turned into a war in World War II because somebody was trying to push an ideology. You know what I mean? So ideology, just like Christianity or anything, is always being pushed. So do you want to associate your ideology with that type of person? You know what
Yeah,
I mean? So
yeah. I'll probably clip it in there, but the two people that were cited were Alfred Kinsey and John Money.
Kinsey and Money. Yeah. So do you want to? So my biggest question is, do you want to associate the ideology with that person, just like someone's, associating a white supremacy ideology with Hitler? White pride, being prideful to be white with Hitler. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that you can't be proud to be, prideful to be white and Caucasian and have pride in your race. Do you want to associate it with that guy though? You see what I mean? So.
But anyway, this has been a pleasure. Thanks. I want to give you one last bout to say what's up to the audience or say goodbye to the audience rather, and then we're gonna close out.
Oh yeah, I appreciate everybody just hanging with me and Jason. If you want to follow me, just go over to YouTube, what you're on right now. Just go to the Dre Mac show. I'm actually getting ready tonight to do a video. I'm actually doing a video on why Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is one of the greatest comic book movies of all times. So that's going to be controversial for a lot of people, but I'm doing a 1990 movie as one of the best comic movies of all time. I'm doing a lot of stuff like with comics and stuff like that. If you want to listen to my old social commentary, all you got to do is go to Spotify or go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. It should be on anywhere you go get podcasts for. Go to the Dre Mac Podcast Show. You can listen to all my old shows. I got some good topics on there too. If you want to listen to the old stuff, if you want to listen to the new, and my comic reviews, movie reviews, just head over to the Dre Mac Show or the Real Dre Mac on IG, and you can check out some of my videos and stuff like that, and and have a little fun with me.
That's what's up. Go ahead and say goodbye to the people. I'm gonna bring you off, and then I'm gonna wrap up the show.
All right, yo. Y'all taking these comic sessions. It's hilarious.
I know. All right, then, Dre. All right, that has been the Black Muse Podcast. I don't really do a good job promoting my stuff, but I should probably start doing it. So since Dre did it, I'm gonna do it. So I basically made it so that my handles are basically the same on everything. So just look for Black Muse. That's Black spelled the normal way, Muse spelled with a Z. Sometimes there's an underscore between them. But yeah, the Black Muse Podcast, if you search that up, you should be able to find the podcast anywhere podcasts are streaming. I'm on Spotify. I live stream to YouTube. For those of you who are on YouTube can see that. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitch now. I'm on Twitter. I got clips on Instagram, all of that stuff. So you can find me on all of those places. Again, Black spelled the normal way, Muse spelled with a Z. And sometimes there's an underscore between them. But yeah, this has been the Black Muse Podcast. Try to do shows like this at least once a week. This was a deep dive episode. So we talked about the documentary, What is a Woman by Matt Walsh in the Daily Wire. The other type of show that I do is a current event show. We usually clip those into segments and we just talk about the news and give our commentary on current events that are happening. So I'll be here again next week. And then until next time, peace.